from a hiring perspective, what this allowed me to see was, okay, I'm spending 30 hours on editing and maybe 10 hours on admin tasks or copy tasks. So how can I reduce that a lot of effort and time in very skilled work that someone could realistically take on and reduce my space so that way I can then go out and get new clients?
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Build Your Team Show. And if you're a business owner looking to build your team, or you've already started and you've reached that head scratching place where it's just, it gets a little bit frustrating, y'all. This is the place to be because we talk about the real stories of what's going on. We want you to know you're not alone, but then also let's talk about how we grow and how we build highly functional teams. Now, I gotta be honest with y'all. I'm a little nervous today because my guest today is a pro. And she is a pro in the world of podcasting. So I gotta be on my best behavior because I might get judged, y'all. So help me welcome Alesia Galati to the show, everyone. Alesia,
Thank you so much, Atiba. I'm so excited to be here. And, I've seen people do this really bad and you're starting off great. So no sweat. You'll do great. I know you're going to do awesome.
All right. Y'all heard it here. I got a gold star for the intro. Woohoo! Let's see if we can keep it up. But yes, we love to have a little bit of fun, if that's all right. Okay. But Alesia, I want to start off here. I want to go back because you've been in business for a little while now, right?
Yeah.
And I want to go back to that point and place in time where you realized I can't handle this all and you needed to bring in help, whether that was contract help or even the full-time employee help. Where were you in business? What was going on? What were you feeling? Tell us about it.
So let's go back in the Wayback Machine. Someone said that the other day and I was like, whoa, Wayback Machine. Oh, man. And so go back in the Wayback Machine, 2020, I had decided, you know what, I'm going to do this full time. I had already been in the online space for about 4 years at that point, doing a little bit of digital marketing here and there, a little bit of podcasting here and there. And I said, I want to go all in on podcasting. But I knew when I made that shift, how much time and effort not only does podcasting take to create a quality show, but I also knew I don't really want to do this by myself. And I don't want to be in the weeds with editing 10 podcast episodes. Like, I want to build something that I can easily go on vacation with, or maybe dabble in a few different things, or have hobbies, right? Like a life, please and thank you. And so I knew once I got to a certain point where I was starting to feel like I didn't have any more space, I knew I needed to hire a team. So going into this business shift in 2020, I knew I'm going to build a team. I don't know when that's going to be or what point that's going to be just yet, but I know that I need a team in order to help me grow this to what I would like it to be.
So when you hired that first team member, was it fun? Was it scary? Was it like the perfect person ever? Like, what was that process like?
So thankfully, in my corporate career, I had some experience in hiring and interviewing and all of that stuff. So thankfully, I felt pretty comfortable in that sense. I knew the type of person I wanted. I knew what kind of tasks I wanted them to do. And I knew that I wanted to dabble at first. I knew that I wasn't going to have someone come in and say, okay, you're going to just start running with this project. I knew that I was going to have to train them because there's a certain way that we do podcasting. I knew that they should have at least some general skills. And then I also knew that I didn't really want to put out a call to my social media friends or anything like that to find someone, because I didn't want to hire friends. I didn't want to hire people that I already had a previous relationship with, because money and friends do not mix well. And money and family do not mix well. And so I knew I didn't want to have that aspect in there. So I ended up going to Upwork, and I found someone that I tested. I did paid trials with a few different people. and said, I really like how this person approached that. With some training, I could get them up to the level that I feel I'm at and the level of quality that we give our clients. They are very responsive. They are very timely with how they work. And I interviewed them and talked to them and did the paid review and then was able to bring them on. They are now with me and have been with me since 2021. Like the beginning of 2021 was when I hired my first person.
Wow.
And so she is with me still to this day. She is my right hand person. I actually, when I have a moment of crisis, like, hey, I want to fire this client, she's the first person I talk to. I don't talk to my business friends because I know they're going to take my side. I talk to her because I know she'll be able to see it from multiple sides. She knows the client better because that's the client she works with. And sometimes, most of the time, she can talk me off the ledge of being like, well, this is probably what's happening. I'm sure their email didn't mean that. So, yeah, that was my first kind of hiring experience. And thankfully, it went really well.
So, well, congratulations, kudos,
Yes.
right? That's awesome. But you also said it. You had some experience from the corporate background that you had, and one of the things that I heard you say was knowing the type of person you wanted to hire. You said, that was the first thing you said. I need to know the type of person I wanted to hire, right? So many of us do the opposite. We look for, here are the skills or what we want them to do. So how did you figure out the type of person you wanted to hire?
Honestly, it does go back to having that previous experience because I would train people when they would first come in to my corporate job. And so I was training them in the system. I was training them on how to be safe. Well, because I worked in manufacturing. And so it was me as a woman training a bunch of guys coming in under us and how to do their jobs. None of them had any previous experience. And so it was almost instilled in me that I'm not looking for the skills, I'm looking for the ability to learn the skills. And I think that really helped
Mm,
me be able to see, okay, this is the kind of person I want rather than these are the massive skills they need to have, because I can always teach them whatever I need them to know because I've had that experience of writing tons and tons of SOPs and processes and like
mhm,
implementing them. So yeah,
mhm.
thankfully, honestly, having a really good previous boss also helped because I knew the kind of leader that I wanted to be in seeing how he was a fantastic leader, and actually called him, I want to say 2 years into my team building and said, I couldn't have done this without your example. So thank you.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Now, you said something in there that I want to make sure we highlight, right? Not looking for the skills, but looking for the ability to learn the skills. And so that was inbred in you from that experience, right? So, what does that look like, though? Uh, is that an innate talent that you just have that I can look for the fact that you can learn? Or is that something that the rest of us mere mortals can also learn how to do?
So I like to say, and I've been told I'm a very intuitive person in general, so I can tell pretty quickly if someone's going to vibe well and how they're going to work well or not. Also, this idea of hiring and training and giving people clear expectations and like reading them on how they approach and having those face-to-face conversations, I think is really, really important because it allows you to see, hey, these are the expectations I have, this is how I work best. What
Hmm.
about you? How do you work best? And also getting an idea of what their goals are, because most of the time when we're hiring someone, especially at a contractor level, they are going to have other clients, they are going to have other priorities. And I think that it's really important that us as business owners, we don't put this idea of, all right, this is my business and this is what I need to do and these are my clients onto our contractors, because they're not, don't have that expectation that they're going to feel that way about your business. And so understanding what their goals are, and even if it is, oh, I'm just
Hmm.
looking for a stepping stone type of job, okay, that sets a clear expectation between you and them. But if you never ask those questions, then you're not really going to know what they imagine this looking like, or where they would like to see it go. So starting there, and then having that 3-month window where you can comfortably and very openly discuss feedback with that person. That tells you a lot on how they take feedback. Are you good at even giving feedback? Can you have those hard conversations? And then training and having those, like I said at the toward a little bit ago, having those SOPs and those processes in place where they can easily follow it without you saying, oh, well, I would have done it that way, because they can't read your mind, right? They can't figure
Right.
out, oh, what is
Right.
it that you expect me to do? And so having those clear set of expectations, having clear communication, and then giving about a 3-month window is what I like to do. And then I check in regularly. Like, yes, that person has been with me for the last 3 years. The third person, I should say, that I hired, she's also been with me for the last 3 years, because I hired them around the same time to add in that video and audio element. And so I have 2 weekly meetings with everybody together to make sure that everything's clear, that everybody's communicating, we're keeping on task. And then every year I have check-ins as well. Here's the performance. Here's what it looks like. And even though we're a small team and we're very personable and we're like, I would consider them friends and I
Yeah.
can go to them about business stuff, I think having that clear space where they can say, this is what I want my future to look like within the company and outside of the company, or this is what I'm struggling with, or this is where I would like more support on. Having that kind of setup of having that space to be able to communicate that really, really helps as well.
Yeah. I can imagine. And I can also imagine someone sitting listening to us right now and the anxiety growing inside of them as they heard you say that, because a lot of us don't want to know. Right? You want to believe, and you said this well, but you want to believe that everybody wants what you want and they're willing to stay here with you forever, right? So how do you deal with it personally to actually get to the place of asking those questions about what are your goals? And then two, how do you create the environment where the employee or the contractor is not going to lie to you and just tell you what they think you want to hear?
Yeah. So one of the people that I did hire also that year, and it was toward the end of 2021, they had since moved on with their life and gone and done other things. And when they first join, and that's where I think having this initial conversation of gauging, right? And not saying like this
Mm-hmm.
is going to define whether I work with you or not. Your skill level or ability to learn a skill is what's going to bring you onto the team. If you decide to leave us in 6 months, okay. I just want to know. Like for me, it's about being clear up front of, yes, I would love for you to stay with me forever. And I would love for you to care about my business as much as I do. I understand that that's probably not going to happen. And as long as I am showing and expressing that I would like you to communicate it with me, then as long as you're communicating it with me, then like there's nothing I can do about it really. Like, and it does
Yeah,
suck.
yeah.
It does. It hurts. But knowing that, okay, I can talk to them and they can talk to me. When that person said, hey, in the next 3 months, I'm going to be looking for a full time position at a job because I don't want to do this entrepreneurial thing anymore. You kind of have to take a step back and say, this is not a reflection on me. It's not a reflection on my business. This is a human being who's making a life choice. And as another human being, how can I show up for them? Right. And so it
Right.
brings in that personableness to it of being able to
Yeah.
say, I'm so happy for you. Thank you so much for giving me a great notice. Like 3 months is enough time for me to either shift things around or to decide that I need to bring in somebody else and train them up to speed. So thank you for that notice. I wish you the best. Is there anything that I can do to help you in that transition? Right? Like, really, like, how would you want someone to approach you? How would you want your corporate boss to approach you and say, if you were like, hey, look, I'm looking for a new job, do you want them to be like, well, kick rocks, bye? Like, no, you don't want them to do that.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Okay. So that's how it works when it all works well. right? So you've got two who've been with you for 3 years. You've got another one who left with 90 days notice. And there probably was a parade attached to it of them leaving and, the goodbye cake and all that good stuff. Has it not worked? Have you had those times where it would just blew up?
Yes. And so this was the second person I hired. And this one, honestly, I think that it was the wrong person for the wrong job. And I don't really think I actually needed someone to do this job. So when you're first hiring, I think it's really important to, especially if you're a solopreneur looking to take things off of your plate, do a time assessment on what you are spending the most amount of time on that you realistically can hire someone to take on. And so in this case, this person, and this is where that idea of don't hire people you know or friends or family or any of that, because I had met this person at a local book club and posted in the group, hey, I'm looking for an executive assistant or some type of assistant to do research and to kind of help me manage some things on my end. Does anyone know anyone? This is the pay range, etc. And so she applied, and it was great for about a month. And then it got to a point where, and this is where this dynamic can be really difficult because she was having mental health issues, was feeling, and then on top of that was like, well, I'm not showing up well. And so I'm going to ghost because I feel like I'm not showing up well. And then I don't really know where to go from here. And so as a human, I had to say, I understand that that's how you feel. This is my expectation for communication. If we can't communicate, this is not going to work. And okay, that's fine, but I need to know that this is not going to work. And so she gave me promises. Yes, I will communicate. I'm not going to let this, bog me down. We're going to do this. And then about a month later, it happened again. And so I had to say, look, we've already had this conversation. I don't think this is the right fit for you. And I don't think it's the right fit for me. And honestly, if it's impacting her mental health, I don't want my business to be the reason that her mental health is struggling. And so maybe you really need to take some time. And like from a person to person, like, this is really not working. Sorry, not sorry. But like also, I think you really should be taking some time to take care of yourself and make sure that you're good before you get into a new job or position, etc. And so that was really hard. One, because I do not really care for confrontation at all. And so having to chase someone down to say, hello, what is happening with these projects or what is happening here? And honestly, I went another year and a half without an executive assistant, and it was fine. And then when my lead editor said, hey, I'd like to get closer to full time, I said, look, these are some extra tasks that we can add in that are this executive assistant role. And so she has kind of a dual role with that.
Gotcha. So you brought up the concept of a time assessment. It's one that some people have heard of, one that others haven't. So tell us about it. Tell us how you've done it, what tools you've used even, and why it's effective.
Yeah. So when I was doing, especially as a service provider, right, if we're offering a service to our clients, one, it's important that we're tracking what we're working on to ensure that not only are we getting paid for the amount of time that we're actually spending on these projects, but being paid well, right? Like we have a skill, we're giving it to our clients. It's really important. But from a hiring perspective, what this allowed me to see was, okay, I'm spending 30 hours on editing and maybe 10 hours on admin tasks or copy tasks. So how can I reduce that a lot of effort and time in very skilled work that someone could realistically take on and reduce my space so that way I can then go out and get new clients that not only feed my hours, but this other person's hours. And so I use ClickUp to track everything because that is our project management tool. And we're able to see a pretty cohesive dashboard on where our time is spent. That aside, if you're not using ClickUp, and I actually don't recommend ClickUp for solopreneurs, Something like Toggle is free, and you can track your time very easily and categorize it that way just to see where you're spending the majority of your time as just a business owner. And then being able to reflect that back. So whenever we get clients that are maybe not aligned with our typical process or our typical hours that we're giving people, for me, especially if that's going to be an ongoing yearly project, I like to make sure, are we actually getting paid well? Or was this kind of oh, this is the price because this sounds about right? And then you go realizing,
Right.
you're like, oh, wow, we are not making enough money there at all. Let's make sure that when we renegotiate these terms, these are our new prices. And here's why we've, excelled in making sure the
Yeah.
team is better trained or whatever you got to say to ensure that you're getting paid well for what you're doing.
For what you're doing. Absolutely. Now, I want to go backwards a bit. There's something that we kind of glossed over, but I think it's a really interesting conversation, even still today. It was a bigger conversation 2 years ago, but even still today, I think it's big, which is face-to-face versus virtual, right? And especially for you who exist in an environment where you are training people face-to-face to do a task, do a job. Now you're managing a team that's virtual. My question then becomes, what new skills, what new things that you have to pull out of yourself, develop in yourself in the virtual world that you didn't have to do in the physical world?
So here I actually think it's easier because okay, so in my previous corporate world, my boss would always tell me, Alicia, you are a jerk to these trainees sometimes. And I'm like, well, they need to just get on task. Like, I'm not going to explain this 5 times over. Why do I have to keep explaining it when they're not just getting it? And he's like, Alicia, you need to calm down. I'm like, fine, okay. And like, I don't actually have to do that when I'm doing Loom videos because I can, one, check myself for a second and say, no emotions here. Here's how you do this. Or I can create SOPs that are literally step by step with screenshots. I don't have to add in my emotion of you should already know this because I'm not in person. And so I think that it's actually made it a lot easier for me to show up as a good boss and give feedback that way because I have that space, especially even if there is something that does fall through the cracks. I can say, okay, this is something that we're going to talk about in our next team meeting, which is in 2 days. Okay, I have 2 days to calm down, right? Breathe, and then address it in a appropriate manner, right? Because I think that so often when we're in person, we react very quickly and very emotionally, and that's not conducive to you getting the result that you want, and it's not conducive to the person receiving your feedback and what you want to tell them. So I think that has helped a lot. I have always been really open with learning new tools. There are a lot of tools that I love. Like I said, I will do screenshots and I will do like step by steps within ClickUp. We have like a whole thing of our SOPs. Loom videos are great to be able to talk through things as well. There's an additional tool on Google Chrome that is called Tango. And that will actually, as you're clicking through, it'll create the SOP for you. Just make sure you're not clicking on other things. Like stay focused on the task, right? Otherwise, those will show up and you'll have to edit them out. But that's another great tool if you're someone who's like, look, I'm not trying to create a full SOP. I just need them to do this, 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 and this. Here's how to do it. Cool. Send that off. Makes it so easy. So the tools are there and accessible to us. It's just a matter of kind of sometimes, especially if you haven't ever made SOPs before, thinking about if someone doesn't know anything about this topic, how can I present it in a way that they could either follow the flow that I'm doing in a way that makes sense for them, but still gets the same result?
Absolutely. And so I'm glad that you ended there because that was going to be my next question anyway. So people like you and I are SOP geeks.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've also come to learn that that's not everyone.
Yeah.
Right. So for the business owner listening to us, who's like, number one, what does SOP stand for? And number two, I don't know how to create that. Uh, for someone who's not great, and you already gave one tool in Tango that US, which is great, but for somebody who's not great, where do they start? How did they create SOPs?
Yeah. So SOPs, standard operating procedures, your goal with those is that you could train someone to do a task without you. Right. And so think of it almost as like, okay, if I'm creating a frequently asked questions for someone who wants to work with me, or if I'm coming up with a new email template that I'm going to use every time that a podcast episode goes live, or I'm going to log into my website, upload a blog post that I've already written. Here are the steps that need to happen in order to do that. So, what would a child, right? Like who's a little tech savvy need to know in order to accomplish that. Cool. All right. So first step is log in to the back end of your website. Go to the top if you're on WordPress and click on new in order to create a new post. Here's where the title goes. Here's where the body goes. Make sure that you have it scheduled out. Here's everything on that side, and here's what that means. You're not giving them more information than they actually need. Like, here's how to make a good blog post, or here's how to no, you're just giving a step by step. Here's how to accomplish this task. And will allow you to do that. Now, also note that I did not create a slew of SOPs until 2022. Okay. So we're looking at a year of me having people working within my business without having official SOPs. So I don't think that don't let the idea of an SOP stop you from making that first hire. You can co-create that with the person. You can let them know up front, hey, we don't have standard operating procedures right now, but I can walk you through how I do it. I can do a Loom video training of how I do it. I would love to be able to, by the end of this year, have those. Would you mind helping me co-create them, maybe look over it and see if I'm missing anything? And I think having that other person to be able to come in and say, here's what you're probably missing, allows you to think outside the box. Like, no, this is how you do it. But like, oh, wait, no, there might be another way to do it. So though that would be what I would recommend to do.
Yeah, that's good. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the follow up to, okay, so you created SOPs. What happens when people don't follow them?
Yeah. Thankfully, everyone follows them. So it works out very well. But like I said before, if there is any point where I'm like, this fell through the cracks, or maybe this wasn't in the SOP, but it's something that was either legacy knowledge or something that was maybe in my head that I just didn't articulate correctly or in a way that made sense, then what I'll usually do is I will do an additional video informing them of this change, and I will make sure that I communicate that verbally. So even though, yes, I'll make that addendum, right, to the SOP, or I'll make that change to it, or I'll add more details to make sure that everybody's doing exactly what they need to do, I will have that face-to-face conversation, whether it's, hey, I saw that this got missed or this was missing in this one. Let's just make sure we get that one for the next one. And also keeping in mind, now, with my background being in manufacturing, most of those SOPs were life or death, quite frankly, because we were dealing with compressed gases. I understand that what I'm doing is not life or death, that if we miss a tag on the back end of a podcast episode, okay, it's not the end of the world. It's not heart surgery. We can go back in and change that. And I think kind of separating that and kind of understanding that has helped me be able to kind of be like, oh, well, that's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. It's okay. Here's what we need to do moving forward. And then it allows me to approach my team in a way that's not like someone could have died, right? Which is how it historically had been. If you're not following the SOP, someone can really get hurt, and we might not be going home today. So make sure you follow this SOP like fear of God in people. Whereas it's like, hey, this happened. Let's just make sure that we're checking those checklists to ensure that we're hitting all of those tasks. And that is another thing that we have added in is within our templates. So every time a new task is created, there's an additional, beyond just the SOP, there's an additional checklist of make sure that these 5 things are done and that you've checked these 5 things, because sometimes these get missed.
Yes. And so I want to highlight something that Alesia is too humble to say here. And that is, it goes all the way back to where we started, knowing the type of person that you're hiring. So when she said, oh, thankfully we haven't really had people they've just been following them. It's because she hired the type of people that would follow them.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's vitally important, going all the way back to the beginning of knowing the person that you want for the role and who they are and what their values are. So, Alesia, I hope I'm still getting a good grade as a podcast host here.
Yes.
I know there's a checklist that is somewhere based on an SOP that your team is going to grade me on, and I'm going to get at some point. So, being that I think I'm still doing okay.
You're doing fantastic.
Right? Thank you. I do want to ask you, because, I joke about that, but seriously, what do you do? Tell everyone who you are, what do you do, who do you serve, and how can they reach you?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, Atiba, for having me on. This has been such a fun conversation. I love this topic so much. So absolutely love it. And I run Galati Media, which is a full service podcast management agency. So it's allowed me to take all of that digital marketing and be able to show up for podcasters who are like, look, I just want to show up, record, and move on with my life. And so we handle everything from the copy, the blog posts, through to the marketing. And what kind of sets us apart from your typical podcast production company is that we go in and we edit for content. So most companies will say, oh, we'll take out the ums, the ers, the false starts. Whereas if the guest says something that doesn't align with your values, we will take that out. And that's really good around election years because a lot of people have opinions. And so most of our clients are like, nope, I don't really want that in there. Got you. We also will edit out stories that don't add value to the conversation. We keep the listener in mind rather than just letting the conversation flow. So they're usually people who really want to edit out and make sure that their listener is getting the most that they possibly can. So we spend a lot of time in the editing, but we do a lot of everything else as well as strategy is included in all of our packages. So that some things that kind of set us apart from your typical person and podcast producer. We work specifically with business owners who are looking to use their podcast to generate leads, which is why we go so far into making sure that the content is good, yes, turning their listeners into leads. And I am also the host of Successful Podcasting Unlocked and Listeners to Leads, which Atiba was very thankfully a guest on. We had such a great conversation about video, and it was so incredible. And you can go and find everything about me at galatimedia.com.
Fantastic. And we will be dropping galatimedia.com in the show notes, also on YouTube, in the caption. So please, number one, if you don't, and if you're not creating content, it's time.
Yes.
It's past time, actually. Okay? And so go to her website and check her out. And because you need someone who can help you actually turn what you created into something that people want to consume. And that's where Alesia shines. Alesia, you've been fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to hang with you one more time. And yeah, I was a guest on her show, so please check out her podcast. Go see her work as well and support. Make sure that you like the episode and subscribe to her podcast as well. Alesia, thank you, my dear.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, everybody, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
And as always, Build Your Team is brought to you by Client Attraction Pros. Hey, it's time that you become the thought leader of your industry, and we're going to help you do that and make it fast, easy, and fun.